Aloha. Definitely thank you to the council, and especially to Chairman Don for bringing this hearing to this district where we are most affected by the geothermal well and what's being proposed further. And I believe that most of us here are in favor of green energy, not as a catchword to be used when it is politically expedient, but as a genuinely clean and clear way to meet energy needs. Green energy must be green in all ways: the air we breathe, the earth's flora and fauna, and especially the health and well-being of each of us. I deeply, deeply appreciate the Council's efforts to keep moving in that direction with bills like 292 and also other bills that you have attempted to pass, and unfortunately didn't. But this one that limits the noise of drilling hours at the geothermal site. Because this noise, as all the testimony indicates, to be committed right there, is distressing, stressful, and definitely unhealthy. And though PTV and ORMAP lawyers would have us believe otherwise, their permits say that they must comply with all the local ordinances. And having these ordinances, our bills, is one of the few ways we have to try to protect our local environment. So basically, they don't have a free ticket to ignore the wants and needs of the people of this island in favor of pushing ahead with their profit motive. Passing this bill is a step, small, but big in importance to ensure that our government, from local to the national level, puts the well-being of its citizens before the profit motives of corporations and the threats and the dealings of their lawyers. So thank you again, council members, to being here, to listen to our concerns, and for your care and your attention to safeguarding this beautiful island of ours. You are much appreciated for the stand you're taking, and I urge you to send this bill to the mayor so it can become part of the policies of this island created to protect its citizens, land, and air. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Jean Thomas, to come forward to the table, please. Jean Thomas. Our next testifier is Hirakami to speak in support of Bill 292. Aloha.
Aloha. And welcome back to Pahoa. And I'd like to thank especially Mr. Yadon, Mr. Pahoa, and Ms. Smart for all your service in these past years on the council. And although we have only a few months left, we have some very important decisions to make. I have a personal story to this. I moved from Tula-Garden in 1974. I was lucky enough to secure a lease on 80 acres in Okiikau off of Kamini Road. And my God, coming from the city, I couldn't believe how dark at night it was, how much the stars were out at night, and how quiet it was. And in 1979, I had the misfortune of having one of the first geothermal exploration wells moved within 2,000 feet of my cabin. The skies lit up, the sound was 24/7, it went on for 11 months, and it literally drove me crazy. It did drive me crazy. I slightly recovered since that time. One night in, maybe I drank too many beers, but it was driving me crazy, so I drove up to the geothermal site, which was up the back road from my property, and I knocked on the trailer there, and the operator was there, and I said, "Hey, this thing is, can't you make it more quiet?" And he told me that yeah, there were ways to mitigate the noise, but the developers weren't about to spend that kind of money at this time because they were still in the exploratory stage. So I went back and I did a little research, and in 1979, I was on the front page of the Tribune Herald as being the first testifier to let the county know that there were no standards on noise, light, air quality, or anything at that time. Well, we've come a long way since that time, but we haven't come quite far enough because of the main consideration of the location, where it is. Consider this. If you don't consider this a construction project, what would happen if you allowed a shopping mall to be built right in the middle of one of the subdivisions, say HPP, and they constructed all night long, 24/7 until they completed the project. Don't you think you'd be in the same situation? This is a construction project very near to a residential area. It's all about location, but you know, noise is only one of the things. We're here specifically about noise, but they haven't completely mitigated and made safe all the other things that we do worry. Some things worse than noise is hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, all the nasty metals that come with geothermal drilling. So I thank you, and I ask you to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I could ask James Bell to come to the table, please. Our next testifier, Gene Thomas, to speak in support of Bill 292. Aloha.
Thank you for coming, and I support Bill 292. I appreciate all of you going out of your way to come over here. It was actually news to me tonight about the low frequency. I knew about low frequency. I know that elephants can communicate a distance of 30 miles between themselves with 30 hertz. And of course, it's not 24/7, so the sound does travel. I live a little more than a mile from the plant, and I have felt this waxing and waning of the vibration, and it's actually real. It's not something I'm just making up, and it was nice to understand what that's all about, because I didn't delve into that deep enough to understand it, but all I know is that it was quite nerve-wracking, and it got, for me, better when it got down several thousand feet. It wasn't as bad. But when they were close to the surface especially, it's just not a good thing. There's some other sounds too, especially when you're drilling, and I think they call them cable breaks. Evidently the cables lift the pipe and then they have to stop and they drop down again, and they have brakes to stop the cable. And maybe it's operator error, I don't know what it is, but it's it's a very annoying screeching sound. And when you hear that screeching at night, it's like way worse than in the daytime. And I think that's another issue that really needs to be addressed, is the noise. Personally, it's all about the noise. Even the regular noise, it's bad sometimes in the daytime, but I don't know why it ramps up at night. But it does, and it causes sleeplessness with several of our friends and my wife. Luckily, I'm able to sleep through it, but it's just not a good thing. The drilling makes it go off the top. So I'm definitely in support of 292. I know it will make drilling cost more, but it doesn't matter. It's very unfortunate that in the very beginning, the plant was put in the wrong place. Now there's new technology that's being investigated that allows geothermal to be done completely away from residential subdivisions. Wherever there's just hot rock, it can be done. There's a lot of balking, there's a lot of, they downplay this because it is not quite as efficient and it costs 50% more. But with the health of people nearby at risk, I don't care if it costs more. If DLNR is bent on geothermal, they can put it pretty much wherever there's hot rock. You just have to bring your water to the site, or you can improve it by 30% by using supercritical CO2. That process can be done.
Thank you.
So I would like that to be looked into for first. I'd rather there was no development here, but if it has to be, get away from residents, get it way out somewhere. It's hot everywhere on this island.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Is James Stone here? James Stone? If not, if I could ask Donald Barker? Is Donald Barker here? Donald Barker? Or is it Barkoff?
It's Parker, but I wasn't expecting to.
Okay, all right, sir. Thank you. How about Dennis Carter? Dennis Carter? Okay, thank you, Dennis. And if I could ask Steve Berkman to come forward as well. So our next testifier is Dennis Carter to speak in support of Bill 292. Hello.
Aloha. First of all, I wasn't planning on speaking when I came here. I was just going to watch, but I got to speak up a little bit here. I was born and raised excuse me, in northern Minnesota. My parents worked at the mines. My grandfather was head geologist for USGS at the mines in northern Minnesota. There's 3 generations in my family alone that watched the northern half of Minnesota first get denuded of trees and then stripped of the earth to rip iron ore out of the ground, leaving these huge, ugly holes. They raped the land. I don't want to see that happen again. Not at all. My wife and I spent everything we had to move here, to peace and quiet, this land, to open a bed and breakfast. I'm deathly scared of this crap expanding close to where it would affect us. We love bed and breakfast. We care for people who want peace and quiet. If this noise and pollution goes on, there goes our business. There goes the value of our land, which we're still trying to buy. The value goes down, we're not going to qualify for the loan. We're out on our ears. We're out of $250,000. We spent our entire savings, our retirement fund, max out all our credit cards. Just want to finish up by quoting a line from an old Eagles song. It says, "Some rich men came and raped the land, and nobody caught him. I think it's time we caught him, damn it. Please do the right thing."
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. If I could ask Thomas Travis to come to the table, please. Our next testifier is Steve Berkman to speak in support of Bill 292. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you for all being on here. This kind of government, I think that's best to be able to do this. And, I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight. I didn't know about this meeting until a couple hours ago, but hearing of it, I was very willing to come over here and be in support. I live within a 1 mile of the project. And depending which way the wind blows and the time of night, I mean, it is pretty intense. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And, I guess the biggest thing that I can kind of relate to is kind of worse than being right next to an airport. Because you've got the, it doesn't stop. It's just constant. And then they have these other sudden sounds that do come in. And when they do stop, it's you just, if you ever take a breath and you go, that's how much you notice it when it actually does stop, because you kind of tune into it. It's just there. It's constant. It's significant. I think sound is a resource as well. I think it's one of the beauties of the island. And I hope, thank you for bringing this bill forward, and I hope it passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. If I could ask Martin Blackwell to come forward to the table, please. Our next testifier is Thomas Travis to speak in support of Bill 292. Aloha.
Thank you very much for being here. I'm speaking in support of Bill 292. First, I would like to address the question about whether this bill is just about PGD, because there's been a lot of discussion. The answer is no. There are several companies, I know of 3 personally, at many sites. I know of 5, and I guess that it's many more companies and many more sites waiting to do exploratory drilling throughout the East Drift Zone, which is all the way from down to the lighthouse. So this is about a lot more than PGD, and this is about a lot more than the neighbors that I think their testimony carries. Bill 292 is not just about noise. Drilling, according to experts, is the most dangerous time during geothermal development. Drilling at night increases the anxiety of those that live closest to the drilling site. Nearby industrial activity disrupts the rhythm of the human family, disrupts homework, the ability to entertain, and the ability to relax. Industrial activity disrupts the home market, causing falling property values. Does stopping drilling by 292 cause undue risk of a blowout? 24 October, contractors that were experts on drilling and received commercial compensation from working on the PGV site were contracted by the state, Department of Land and Natural Resources, to evaluate the impact of Bill 292. In verbal testimony, these contractors stated that stopping drilling would cause thermal cycles on the drill apparatus and possible collapse of the edge of the drill boundary. These issues would increase the risk of blowout and increase the complexity of the drilling operation. This argument presented by the LNR deserves some consideration. If such drill stoppages impose risk, why doesn't the DLNR regulate those drill stoppages or regulate issues that could lead to such stops in drilling? Things like ordering spare parts, having backup power supplies, robust personnel policies to be sure they're experts on site. Does DLNR monitor the number of drill stops that have occurred, and if so, can they provide that data to the community? Does DLNR balance the risk of drill stops against the risk of health and safety of the community? Finally, I'd like to talk about best available control technology. From Dr. Suzanne Wakeland's research on permits and permitting that was presented to the council as testimony on 23 October. I quote, condition 20 of the GRP states that, GRP2 states that best available control technology must be employed for noise emissions to all aspects of the project. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, sir.
That's a red light. I'm done.
You want to summarize, briefly summarize, sir?
Well, I'll just finish reading the statement from the control permit. Noise reduction measures must be implemented unless the facility substantially complies with residential noise standards. In a PGV community meeting 3 days ago, the PGV manager, Paul Thompson, stated that PGV's efforts to reduce noise have been inept. Thank you.
Thank you very much.